Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Selasa Startup X Scale-Up 101 Endeavor Scaleup Growth Program. Selamat datang buat teman-teman Selasa Startup, bareng lagi dengan kita dengan dailysocial.id dan Endeavor Indonesia. Dan hari ini saya mau menyambut dulu untuk semua teman-teman Selasa Startup dan Endeavorians Indonesia. Selasa Startup merupakan sharing session dari dailysocial.id tiap hari Selasa tentunya ya, dengan konten-konten knowledge sharing about startup di Indonesia, yang kali ini kita berkolaborasi bersama Endeavor Indonesia di program Scale-Up 101 dalam rangka program Scale-Up Growth Program. Terima kasih juga nih untuk sponsor dalam kegiatan ini, tentunya di dalam kegiatan Scale-Up Growth Program, yaitu Baba Raffi Group, Dana, Investri, dan BCG atau Boston Consulting Group. Dan tentunya dailysocial.id as our media partners. Jangan lupa nih untuk semua teman-teman untuk follow our social media platform dari Endeavor_Indo untuk update info-info tentang program Endeavor Indonesia, dan tentunya dailysocial.id untuk berita-berita startup paling hot banget ya. And tonight we're live again from Go Play. So are you ready to entering the fundraising game? Yes. Balik lagi bersama saya, Rizky Ray Ramadan, tentunya sebagai Manager Business Development dari Endeavor Indonesia, atau biasa dipanggil Iki, teman-teman boleh manggil saya Iki, tenang aja. Hari ini saya sudah kedatangan tamu-tamu ganteng, ini startup players yang keren-keren banget yang pastinya. Yang pertama kita punya Mas, siapa nih? Oh, Mas Martin Reyhan Suryohusodo dari co-founder and CEO Otoklix. Dan tentunya juga yang kedua ada Mas Wisnu Nugrahadi, co-founder and CEO dari Sampingan. Oke guys, before kita start dengan tamu-tamu yang keren ini, sedikit aja, let me explain a bit. Kalau misalnya dari tadi teman-teman udah cari tahu apaan sih Scale-Up Growth Program, siapa sih Endeavor gitu ya. Jadi sedikit aja aku mau kenalin aja ini. Scale-Up Growth Program is non-dilutive growth accelerator that gives entrepreneur access to resources, successful founders and industry leaders, and of course, mentors across Endeavor's local and global network to help you scale to next level. Nah, kalau teman-teman ikutan program ini bakal dapat apa sih? Pertama, ada multiple one-on-one mentoring session with industry or functional expert from Endeavor local and global networks. Dua, high impact panel, in-depth discussion to seek fresh feedback and insight for your next big milestone. Ketiga, Endeavor Buddy from the selected Endeavor entrepreneur. Keempat, access to Endeavor Investor Network if you are currently looking for fundraising. Malam ini harus nonton banget ya. And possibly to take the fast track route to become Endeavor entrepreneur. Nah, by the way, sedikit aja, dua startup yang malam ini hadir juga partisipan Scale-Up Growth Program cohort pertama di Indonesia. Asik banget. Nah, teman-teman, kalau nggak kenal nggak sayang, seperti biasa saya katakan itu. Nah, jadi kita kenalan dulu. Malam ini kebetulan tadi sudah ada tamu yang hadir duluan, jadi kita akan kasih kehormatan, gelar karpet merahnya duluan untuk Mas Martin Suryohusodo. Mas, can you introduce yourself and probably introduce about Otoklix, of course.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mas Rizky. So hi guys all, my name is Martin. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Otoklix. So maybe a little bit about Otoklix sendiri. Otoklix is basically an O2O solution for automotive servicing with the sole mission on transforming the automotive aftermarket as we build trust, convenience, and transparency for all automotive owners. Jadi how we partner with independent workshops on streamlining the procurement supplies and therefore providing leads generation to the workshop as well. So Columbia, we were founded in 2019 approximately, where right now we have about 80 people in the organization with a network of about 2,000 workshops throughout Greater Jakarta area, and servicing about 20,000 customers per month.
Wow, I don't think it's gonna be called startup, I guess. No, okay, you startup, but gonna be really big, hopefully. Cross finger. Now,
Amen.
For the next tamu ganteng yang berikutnya, ini anak Unpad ternyata, saya baru tahu. Jadi sama-sama dari Bandung, mungkin pernah tinggal di Bandung. Mungkin boleh Mas Wisnu Nugrahadi dari Sampingan. Perkenalan dikit dulu Mas, and then can you introduce a bit about Sampingan, of course.
Halo, thank you Mas. Ya, gue Wisnu dari Sampingan. Kita sendiri adalah digital staffing solution for enterprise companies. And we focus mostly on the blue and gray collar sector. Saat ini kita mungkin udah lebih dari 1 juta workers ya yang register on the platform and ready to work across 80 cities. Sampingan sendiri berdiri 2018 bersama teman-teman kampus juga Mas, dari Unpad, anak Unpad juga, and yeah, excited to be here.
All right, great. Thank you very much, Mas Wisnu. Okay, guys, let's start the game of tonight, right? Ini judulnya udah bikin deg-deger sebenarnya buat saya. Entering the fundraising game gitu ya. Dimana ini semuanya, I guess, it's like a thing that every startup in the world, I guess, is looking for this thing, right? So, as we already been talk about fundraising, how to get and everything, I think that is the kind of old timers that you're looking for about information about fundraising. But tonight I really want to know, really want to know, probably can you share a bit first your journey of a fundraising, because I think it's everybody's want to know, and then it can be shared as an experience, right? So I think Mas Wisnu, please, probably you can start first and then we continue with Mas Martin.
Sure. Jadi kita mulai sebenarnya back in 2018 itu via startup accelerator atau generator called Hunter ya. So it's based in Singapore. Kita masuknya juga sebenarnya reason kita masuk ke sana, back then previously I was working at Gojek, dan I didn't have the network or know-how to build a company or fundraise lah. Itu maybe back then juga masih belum as many companies as today ya. Dan juga information atau access to investors mungkin masih cukup minim. So I went through the program, dan di situ I think the idea of Sampingan itself itu something udah ada dari sebelumnya, dan tapi di situ cukup kebantu untuk mendapatkan the right information and the right network untuk kick off proses company building kita, dan managed to close our pre-seed and seed round in quick succession within the first 3 months. And after that, prosesnya aja sih, kita jalanin aja.
Okay, all right. This will be interesting. But I'll continue that again back to you. Now, Mas Martin, probably you can tell a bit your story first about fundraising and Otoklix.
Yeah, probably my story is slightly different with Mas Wisnu di sini. So in terms of the company, we were founded in 2019. So for the first 6 months, we were initially a bootstrap company before we raised our first angel round from one of the founder of a very reputable company or startup in Indonesia. So we've closed our first round of funding, or this angel round, on June 2019 approximately. At that point, I have no idea about how fundraising is. At that point, I only have a presentation deck. I don't know about a data room and etc. So basically, the first round of funding angel is pretty much because of trust. And that's the value of the investor that I was able to onboard, where then once we raise our first official funding that we start on around the first quarter of 2020, we receive a lot of insights regarding the access to investors and so on. Karena sama kayak Mas Wisnu di sini, I came from a consulting background, so I have no access to investors at all. I have no idea how a fundraising is for a particular startup. So my angel investor truly helped me a lot, up to the point that I was able to close our first official venture founding. Approximately, we closed it at June 2020 sebenarnya, with Sequoia Search as well as some other follow-on investors. So I guess that's a pretty much rough overview of the journey. It's not as beautiful as it is. There were a lot of problems in between, especially at Mas Wisnu maybe have experience as well, where we're trying to build a new something or trying to disrupt an existing market that has already been there for quite some time. So there were a lot of pushbacks, there were a lot of negativities and so on. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. I'm definitely gonna back onto your experience on that side, but let me continue first with Mas Wisnu. Yeah, Mas Martin, please hold it there. Hold it in your thought there, Mas Wisnu. Something that's very special from Sampingan, that, as you said, you started like in the early beginning, it's already being in fund, right? Udah dari awal, udah dari pertama bahkan sudah di fund. Nah, boleh tahu Mas, sebenarnya ketika nyiapin atau nge-prepare yang namanya Sampingan gitu ya, it's actually is that your target or your planning, or is actually you have already another plan to get the money or any other from beside the fundraising? Pernah kepikiran nggak, atau sebenarnya planning awalnya Sampingan tuh maunya gimana sih justru sebenarnya?
mungkin sebenarnya kenapa kita bikin sampingan dan di 2018 juga sebenarnya lebih itu something yang I think dari awal juga udah pengen bikin a company and we have the right problem that we've identified, dan I think timingnya juga pas ya, with all the changes di Indonesia, di Parsana. Terus kalau misalnya regarding fundraising dan apakah going back would be bootstrap, I think it depends juga ya. Depends I think on again if it depends on the product market fit juga, I would say ya. I think it would be ideal for people to bootstrap until they have a slight PMF. Jadinya pas mungkin mau fundraising itu udah ada some proof lah of concept. Jadi nggak terlalu apa ya, halu. Tapi di satu sisi juga again ya, kalau kita I think we were quite fortunate sih, pas masuk ke program tersebut juga I didn't expect anything, to be honest. We didn't really expect to be funded or anything. It's just experience. We wanted to get the right, again, knowledge and network. But turns out things happened. So yeah.
Okay, this is crazy, because ini dari dua-duanya yang gue dengar adalah kalian punya hati yang tulus. Dua-duanya adalah you're starting a startup for solving a problem, right? And then yang satu being luck, dengan tanpa harapan apa-apa, sudah yang ini ya kita coba aja, kita cari aja for the networks or insight, belajar ini itu, tiba-tiba sudah being funded, and right now you already gone into a series, $7.1 million. It's really great for Sampingan. But Mas Martin, tadi balik sama on your thoughts. You say that fundraising is not always great, right? There's always downside and upside. Oh, balik, downside and upside, right? So yang gue pengen tahu, yang I think the audience also wants to know, what is the downside is? I mean, probably you can share in that first side.
Okay. First of all, let me correct one statement. There's only one upside and a lot of downside. One upside is when the money's in the bank. The others are all downside, regardless whether the investors say that, oh, we like you, let's meet up again, and so on. There's only one upside. Once the money's in the bank, that's the upside. Other than that, it's all downside. Jadi, for me, at least personally, slightly different. When we started fundraising, sebenarnya, I was still 21 back then, so I was still very young.
Oh my God.
I was 21 years old when I was starting to pitch to investors and so on. And that age was a huge problem for me, because in the early stage, the only mindset that investors have when they invest in you is whether the founders is someone that they can execute the particular solution that you're going to pitch. Because the business model will change, because you will iterate along the way to arrive to the product market fit that you can scale up. And so for my side, it was a huge difficulty where, first of all, we were open doors. That's the fortunate thing. We got the open doors by our angel investor to meet several VCs. We pitched the VCs and so on, but ends up closing the round up to a point of about 4 months before we received our first term sheet. So I've met with every single VC in Indonesia, Singapore, Malaysia, and every single one. And I've been rejected by every single one, up to the point that we've even at the point delay our round, focus on the business more, then start fundraising again, up to where we got accepted, or at least received the term sheet from Sequoia Search. So it was a pretty interesting experience. So when I first pitched, I remember I was pitching to one VC, I wouldn't name the name. It was the first VC that I talked to. And he asked me whether I would show the product. Our MVP was about an ERP solution, similar like an ERP for workshop. That was the first pitch. And they told me that, are you a SaaS business? And I'll admit this, please don't say it out loud, that at that point, because I was still 21, I don't know about startup, I don't even know what SaaS is. So I was like, maybe it's kind of there, but it's not there. So basically, it was a pretty continuous learning experience for me. Every pitch turns out greater insights for me. So I've met with a lot of VCs. You can name every single one. Most likely I have met them, from the smaller ones to the larger ones. Have been rejected by most of them before receiving our first fund. That's why I said it was a pretty painful experience for me initially. because I was so young back then, and especially rejection wasn't. It's not something that I'm familiar with already because I was still pretty inexperienced at that point. So I guess in a general field, I mean, like I can talk about all the experience like 24 hours, but in a general view, that was one of the things that I encountered, I guess.
Definitely will say there's only one upside and a lot of downsides, right? Definitely that one. Okay. But again, Mas Martin, thank you very much. But Mas Wisnu, this is what listen from somebody that, looking doing of the adventure of fundraising, right? And then meanwhile, if looking for from the information that I got, you've been doing also until right now you get the A series, right? Probably can you share a bit to us also, because there's a lot of the downside. Can you tell me a bit first about your downside that actually until today probably you still regret it, or you say that, oh my god Ki, kalau lu tahu bayangin gitu. Nah itu ada nggak sih Mas?
Apa ya? I don't know. I think I wouldn't change anything, to be honest. Because you change something, then you don't learn from that mistake. I think at least that's what I believe ya. Tapi untuk downside-nya ya mungkin Martin just laid it out. You get a lot of rejections gitu. There's ya mungkin yang selalu masuk ke media dan ini pasti pas kita
dapatnya kan
when we close the round, right? Benar. Tapi behind that there's so much effort dan pastinya juga bukan cuma di kita aja as founders, but also from the team to help us build up the narrative, make sure that we have the right metrics, set up data room. Super painful, but yeah, I mean it's a very interesting experience dan melalui itu semua sih you get a thick skin aja ya. Over time, awal-awal kayak kok nggak dibales atau misalnya kayak kok ngilang dan lain sebagainya, atau di reject dan sebagainya. Awal-awal kayak oh shit, apa yang harus diubah nih dari is it something wrong with how I presented the company? Should we iterate? And I think over time juga it's like what Conor McGregor's coach said, win or learn. So you learn something. If you don't win today, you learn something for a better tomorrow. And that's why we keep on iterating and we try to make sure that we have the right components lah, until we can get to where we want to be.
I see. Wow, itu great quotes banget tuh ya. Bener-bener kalau misalnya nggak win hari ini, pokoknya we learn something from that. I think that's really great quotes for tonight. But let me ask you both a question. This kan setelah I think Mas Martin, you started from the 2019, and then Mas Wisnu from 2018. Both of you is actually still can be count as a young companies, right? Young startups. It's really young, between 2 and 3 years yet. But from that experience, from that all rejection, from all that funding that right now you got already, right? Is there any best time is actually to raise the money? I mean, is there any specific time that is actually great to do a pitch or reach out to the VCs? Because in my experience, di pengalaman saya kerjasama bareng VC, kebanyakan mereka sebetulnya menerima email itu like 1,000 a day, right? Like I think more than 1,000 a day gitu. Sementara mereka bisa bilang kayak ya udah lagi ditumpuk, dilihat dulu mana yang ini ya, pekerjaan mereka begitulah teman-teman yang associate-nya gitu kan ya. Nah, tapi dari sisi startup sendiri, for both of you, after these 2 or 3 years, do you think there's any specific time that actually very good to do a pitch or to do fundraising gitu? Mungkin Mas Martin bisa cerita dulu, Mas.
Okay. First of all, don't do fundraising during COVID. It might not do well. It depends on the business, of course.
Okay.
But yeah, most likely either investors will not invest or they will downplay your valuation, etc. But regardless, to answer your question, I don't think there's a rule of thumb here. I don't think there's a specific time when you want to fundraise and etc. It depends on the condition. So for me personally, I can speak from my personal experience. How I think about fundraising, regardless of time, I look into 2 aspects. either how much runway do we have left, and as well as at what stage of the company you are in. Meaning at what stage, we can define the company stage, kembali lagi, first of all, finding the early product market fit, right? Then once you find the early product market fit, you want to make sure that once you get that product market fit, you got to scale up. Then once you scale up, the focus then started to become optimization. So how I see it is, what phase or which phase are your company in? If you're a company that you believe you have a certain product market fit based on your North Star metrics, that you must first identify what's your product market fit. Itu yang penting dulu. That's the rule of thumb. And if you're ready for that, regardless if you still have 60 months of runway or you're even profitable and you want to scale up your business like crazy, yes, you can start fundraising. But not all companies have the liberty of finding that product market fit as quickly as possible, because most of the case, product market fit comes a little bit because of luck. So the other approach is seeing how much runway do we have left. I'm pretty much of a conservative person because I came from a finance and accounting background. So I always think about how long would my company survive. So I always keep track at least 18 months of runway, 1/8, for just in case. Because usually fundraise will take 6 months up to the point that your funds disperse. And you want to make sure that you have enough buffer for your company to survive.
Wah, kayaknya
It's different.
Oh.
However, doesn't mean that you can't talk to investors throughout the period. You can talk to some investors passively, not invest too much of your time, because most of the cases you'll get deals that you won't plan to fundraise in the first place. So that's a lot of occurrences that might happen. You're not planning to fundraise. You just tell them about what your prop dates and so on. Hey, let's fundraise. They'll give you a term sheet and so on. Then take it if you like the investor for sure. And if you think you're ready because you want to scale up the business. So it's very dependent. It depends on the business.
Okay, but I think I quite agree with you. You know, finding the right after that you get your product market fit. I think that's really good. Also, the time to start, and then either that you already making revenues or whatever it is. But if you found that stage, I think it's really good also. But how about you, Mas Martin, Mas Wisnu? Are you in the same opinion with Mas Martin, or you have another opinion with this?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think Martin udah jelasin very well ya. Totally agree. It all comes down to leverage actually. I think if you have leverage, again kalau runway tipis berarti leverage-nya makin sedikit buat dari sisi founders and the company itself. Kalau runway panjang dan traction juga bagus, you have better leverage. But of course, some folks would stretch it real close lah. In the hopes of getting more traction down the line, so that you can justify better valuation. Tapi again, no right or wrong way to do it. I think as long as you have a backup plan, if things don't go as planned. I think the wrong way is if you don't have a backup plan. And I think it's always good to engage early to build relationships, because you're not just getting the money, but you'll be working with these VCs or investors for years to come. So it's always good to get an understanding of what the market is like, and also who you can actually work with for many years to come.
I think, Mas Wisnu, ada yang bikin aku penasaran. Tadi Mas Wisnu bilang ketika udah nge-preparing terus misalnya untuk fundraising, as long that you have a backup plan. Ini menarik. Ini bikin gue jadi menarik ya. Ini gue jadi pengen nanya. Backup plan yang seperti apa, Mas? Kan kalau tadi Mas Martin ngejelasin secara finance ada buffer semua segala macam. It's something that it's formally or normally it's a company what needs to be prepared itu gitu kan. But you said that a backup plan. Ini berarti you have some ideas, or probably you when you do a fundraising, you actually curating or doing something, another backup plan for it. Can you a bit telling the story about this gitu? Backup plan yang gimana, Mas? Kalau menurut saya sih, gue penasaran jadinya.
Yeah, sure. Pasti kan. So what I did itu kita punya simple lah bagi 3, optimistic, realistic, sama pessimistic on the amount, on the timeline of how much we want and when ideally the money comes in. Dan of course kalau misalnya kita nggak hit the optimistic, kita turun realistic kita turun ke pessimistic. Dan backup plan itu I I think would be always good kalau misalnya pas kita fundraising itu ada timeline yang kita set ya. Jadi nggak terus-terusan fundraising, jadi capek juga kan kita, jadi terlalu high dari bisnis. Tapi kalau misalnya kita set 3 months kita close dan sebagainya, juga ada sense of urgency I think for investors to come in as well. Dan kalau misalnya nggak hit the target within the 3 months, masuk ke pessimistic plan, then there might be areas that you need to improve first, whether it's the traction or the product. I think Martin explained this briefly, and we've also had some adjustments, of course, because of COVID. You need to calculate how much extra time you need to improve on that, before going out to the market again. Tapi those extra months juga, again, you either have or don't have the runway. If you don't have the runway for those extra months, then you need to think about cost-cutting measures to increase the runway so that you have more breathing room until you can improve the product and improve the traction, so you can get to the right metrics and the right valuation or the right amount, whatever it is that you're looking for. Then ketika udah dapet, and then you do it again, rinse and repeat, semua jalan lagi, optimistic, realistic, pessimistic. Kalau optimistic the next time, and then it's good. Kalau enggak, ya udah terus aja.
Wah, ini menarik ini. Ini keren ya. Maksudnya membagi backup plan sesuai dengan it's not a theory lah, tapi a practical of life ya. Membagi dengan 3 hal tadi gitu, pessimistic, realistic, and then apa yang terbaik tadi itu sudah jadi lupa aku.
Optimistic ya.
Optimistic ya. Jadi ini dibaginya gitu dengan caranya Mas Wisnu. Ini keren. Jadinya tapi ya itu tadi backup plan-nya itu memang dilihat dari sisi itu, terus akhirnya melihat secara praktikal bagaimana yang baik, apa yang harus dilakukan dan segala macam secara ini. Mas Martin, ini jadi challenge. Jadinya gue challenge lu Mas, karena gue jadi pengen tahu nih kalau Mas Wisnu tuh ternyata punya itu idenya. He got the backup plan, while you tadi dengan gegap gempita bahwa gila ini perjuangannya berapa. Tapi kan secara realistik juga karena background-nya di kau sebagai finance juga sebetulnya sudah diperhitungkan semuanya. Tapi tell me a bit, tell us a bit, are you have any backup plan on it, or actually in doing this fundraising games, you just like, okay, I know what things I need to do, let's fight for it, and then just go, or just like that. Tell us a bit.
Well, for me personally, like in terms like a designated backup plan, we don't create like a very designated backup plan. But what we do is that before we go to the market to fundraise, usually I did a soft pitch, an elevated pitch to several of the investors. And sometimes for some of the investors that I've been maintaining good relationship with, I kept on sending them monthly updates, even though they're not in the cap table. I don't send P&L, but I send monthly updates on the key metrics and so on, just to maintain relationship on the people that you know that you want to work with in the future, and the integrity is good. What's the goal there? The goal is to receive the feedback from them. Like, what are they concerns with? That's how I get the information on what are the key metrics that I should improve prior to me fundraising. So when I do that fundraising, of course, it's not 100% certain, but I already have an inclination, or at least some guidance on what the investors want. And I make sure that I achieve that first before I start going to the market. Because that's what I didn't do during my first official venture funding, where we did fundraise, get feedbacks, iterate, and it takes a lot of my time to fundraise. As a result, lack of efforts in the operation. So how I do it right now is, rather than building a plan for me, I try to mitigate it by proactively finding those feedbacks, conquer it, and then start going to fundraise. Of course, it's not a definitive reason, but it's not like because of the 18 months runway, I still have plenty of time to restructure the costs and everything. Because at the end of the day, if your unit economics works, cost optimization comes relatively easier than actually getting $1 revenue with a $2 cost. In that case, then you should not fundraise first, you focus on that. So for me, it's more towards that side. Jadi lebih pre-fundingnya, I get those feedbacks and try to improve and optimize before going to the fundraise.
Oke, tapi ini menarik ini. Dua hal yang berbeda yang bisa menjadi tips sebenarnya buat teman-teman semua Selasa Startup dan Endeavor Indonesia. Yang satu bilang bahwa dengan cara precaution yang backup plan, dengan sudah melihat secara realita, optimistik dan optimisme segala macamnya. Sementara yang satu, lu harusnya bisa building the trust within the networks of the investor to get that insight, dan yang bisa menganticipate dan memenuhi apa sih yang menjadi kepenuhan untuk target funding gitu ya. Ini menarik ini dari dua hal ini sangat menarik sekali. But let me get into the next question ya, brothers. Ini dua-duanya ini soalnya kita sebenarnya pertanyaannya cukup banyak. Yang nanya juga ini udah mulai banyak sebenarnya. But ini sebenarnya udah ada yang langsung nanya, Mas, tipsnya apa ya kalau misalnya mau untuk mendapat if sometimes the investor are playing get hard to get. But I'll skip that first karena itu akan menjadi yang menarik untuk di belakang di ujung sebenarnya buat gue. Tapi aku mau nanya dulu nih sama both of you. If you can pick one, what will be the hardest thing to decide or before or when fundraising? Jadi sebenarnya apa sih yang menjadi yang paling berat? Selain kalau misalnya tadi aku dengar dari cerita kalian berdua kan mempreparing semuanya, terus udah gitu data driven ya semua segala macam itunya. Yang aku pengen nanya adalah mentally. Ada nggak sih di kalian ketika sebenarnya setiap once you gonna do pitching and everything, as a mentally, as a co-founder, as a CEO of the companies, as the face of the companies, are you feeling a burden or something that actually itu yang berat sebenarnya atau secara mentally? Mungkin aku tanya dulu sama Mas Wisnu. Mas, kalau lu sendiri ngalamin nggak sih? Bener-bener karena kadang-kadang gue punya teman-teman startup yang mereka as a CEO ataupun leaders ketika mau pitching tuh rasanya waduh gegap gempitanya tuh bikin hati dan malah akhirnya it's kind of the breaking down the pitching session gitu ya kadang-kadang gitu. Mungkin Mas Wisnu bisa cerita dikit, Mas.
Sure. Kalau itu nggak terlalu ya, mungkin karena I treat each pitching session itu lebih ke interaktif gitu loh, getting feedbacks, it's of course getting their point of view, feedbacks, and potential maybe collaboration di luar dari investment. There's so many positive outputs lah if you can think about it ya, dari each conversation, and doesn't need to be, I think ya awal-awal mungkin quite intimidating ya, karena kayak ini siapa gitu kan, tapi you know what, over time you see that you actually you know more about the business than anyone else gitu, and di sesi-sesi pitching itu mungkin it's more of a, I think I try to look at it as a sharing session, two-way sharing session sih, dan so therefore again there's no win or lose, right, it's how about kedepannya kita either work together atau mungkin formatnya beda lain atau we can keep in touch, and that's always good.
Alright, wow, okay, really good positive answer. Ini teman-teman startup dan innovators ini harus catat ya. Kayaknya benar, kayaknya jangan dianggap terlalu berat deh gitu ya, malah itu bikin jadi stres yang ada judulnya. Tapi Mas Martin, how do you think? What do you think?
Well, I guess Mas Wisnu tadi said a very good point about the discussion, treat it as a discussion. And also just to add a little bit, gimana pun like it's human nature, especially when you're doing something new, especially when you're doing your first fundraise. Of course, you will have a lot of the cases you'll be very pasti tegang lah, gimana pun. But one tip that I can actually provide is that if you master the product knowledge, the market knowledge very deeply to the point that any questions that they're gonna ask, it's on the back of your head, then most likely your stage fright atau lebih yang tegang it will be gone, because at the end of the day you're just retelling what you already understand. So the goal is that you'll be more stressed over towards the presentation if you don't know what you're presenting. So first steps is make sure that you clearly in detail understand anything you're doing in terms of the market, in terms of your product, in terms of the numbers, which is very important because they will dive in the numbers very deeply, that you can actually tell them on the back of your head. Jadi when you start talking, most of the cases, this will be gone. these yang tegang-tegang will be gone because you have it on the back of your head. You master all the knowledge. Not that bukan diingat, you understand. It's very different. You understand and you remember it's completely different. You understand deeply. That's the most important aspect. And of course, treat it as a discussion session, although in reality, not all pitching would go like that. I've been to a pitch that there are about 30 people in a conference call.
Oh my God.
And in that case, it will not be a discussion session. So coming back, if you really understand the business, show your energy, show that how you understand the numbers, you understand the market, how you care for it. And if you master and understand that, it shouldn't be a problem. Of course, you need practice, of course, try it with other friends and etc. But that's the quick tip that I can actually provide.
Itu udah tip langsung dari Mas Martin ya, tapi ini menarik banget ya. Ini benar-benar antara Mas Wisnu sama Mas Martin ini, you have really crazy adventure, I guess, for this both of you, I guess. And then masing-masing justru punya insight yang menarik dan sebenarnya mirip udah menuju ke arah yang satu. Kayak tadi Mas Wisnu bilang intinya kalau lu memang lu kenal bisnis, lu tahu, lu nggak usah khawatir gitu kan. Sementara tadi diperkuat sama Mas Martin bahwa jawabannya adalah you need to understand. It's not about menghafal kalau kata orang Indonesia ya. Ini it's about understanding the business itself and the numbers is very important. Okay, very great. Mas Martin, Mas Wisnu, let's continue. This one will be something that I also want to know from both of you. Well, as you know that startups sometimes people think always as their babies, right? I don't know if this is right or not. It's just that some saying that yes, this is my baby, this is my beloved things, right? And then when it comes into fundraising gains, right? You need to be, I'm not saying loose, right? But you need to share a bit of your baby to the others, right? Now, my question is, how does it feel actually? I'm not saying losing, but to share a bit of this, I'm not saying only monies, but probably your glorify or your glory things, right, with the others. I know from you are both in positive way. Yes, you can say that probably no, it's not about losing, right? But really want to know, once you say that, okay, you have an agreement with one of the VCs or investors, then it means you need to share about it. What do you think and what it actually feels for both of you? I think let me start with again with Mas Wisnu again. Tadi Mas Martin udah, sekarang lagi balik ke Mas Wisnu.
Okay, mungkin dari awal juga pasti pemikirannya kan kayak kita kenapa fundraising in the first place ya. Probably it's to grow the business, most likely ya. It's to grow the business and to reach more audience. And I think how I feel about that is, we want to create more impact or create more values to more customers. And in order to do that, we might need to fundraise. And kalau misalnya if that means that we're letting go of a piece of the company, but in return we get not only the money but also the partner lah untuk to help us get through this adventure ya yang it's not an easy adventure definitely, and the more people that can support you is also I think I'd like to think of it as better as well. Jadinya it's I don't feel negatively towards that sih.
Okay.
There's some positive outcomes juga yang bisa kita dapetin.
Oke, keren banget ini teman-teman Selasa Startup harus nyontoh ini judulnya. Punya pola bahwa ini bukan kehilangan tapi justru mendapatkan yang lebih justru ya Mas Wisnu ya. Nah, kalau Mas Martin sendiri gimana nih? Pasti nih awal-awalnya sih udah sama positifnya, cuman mungkin punya excitement yang lebih nih kalau gini. Gimana Mas?
Maybe this is cliche ya, but basically maybe with Mas Wisnu juga sama ya, when we created this business, we're doing this not only for us personally, we're doing this for a greater impact, right?
Yep.
That means that for us to achieve that greater impact, you won't be able to do it single-handedly. And therefore, yang tadi dibilang, sharing allows you to help you get closer to whatever mission that you're aiming. But the key question, otomatis, don't share it with someone else that you don't want to share it. Meaning, you gotta find not an investor in early stage, you gotta find a partner. So treat your early stage investor like a co-founder. I talk with my investor more times than I talk with my girlfriend, to be honest, initially. So I called with them every single day and so on. So what I see is that, yes, of course, you would have some things like, oh, now previously I can do all sorts of things, but now you got to consult or at least receive advice. But it's all for the greater impact in a way, because not all advices are good from investors, but to a certain extent, the sharing will help you provide those positive outcomes. And there's this one quote that I want to share that has been embedded to my mind by my investor, Sequoia, that keeps on being repeated like hundreds and thousands and even millions of times with me, is that it's better for you. So sorry, let me take a step back. If you got to choose, is it better to own a large pie of a small cake or a small pie of a large cake? The tendency is that you got to have the large cake to put a greater impact to the society. Even when you have a smaller pie, it will help you to create a larger organization, because you're not building this company to just be a company that is not going to last in 100 years or so. You want to build a unicorn, decacorn, but also profitable. That's very clear. So that's how I see it. And I'm pretty objective as well, up to the point that I do believe that investors do understand a little bit of advices and so on. It truly helps your company. I cannot count the number of times that investors have helped me throughout my journey on the iteration, product, and etc.
Okay, wow. Okay, well, it's really, really great insight, I think, for everybody's here, especially me. Okay, I'm really, really happy to hear from both of you on this side. Now, next question. Oh yeah, about question. For teman-teman Selasa Startup sama Endeavorians Indonesia, kalian kalau mau nanya nih, walaupun gue udah banyak banget yang dibekalin lewat WA nih, ke semua teman-teman gue udah nge-WA semua, boleh jangan lupa ada button shout ya di GoPlay-nya, diklik di situ buat teman-teman yang mau nanya, nanti pertanyaannya kalau misalnya sempat dibacain sama aku ya. Nah, Mas, next question from me. This 2 years is very, very, what I say? I'm not saying bad situation. It's just that, in the condition that we never expect for this COVID-19 and everything. But I saw both of you actually, still trying or doing of these fundraising gigs, even though the situation like this. But again, Mas Martin, you've said before that it's really bad time actually in this COVID-19, or it depends on the startups or what's the situation, right? But can you both share to us what happens with you guys in this COVID-19 situation, especially in the fundraising? Besides, I don't know, is it an effect into your companies, or is it effect into your gameplay of the fundraising? Me personally, I really want to know, and how you survive, how you change, or how you deal with it. So probably Mas Martin, you can share first before Mas Wisnu for this one, Mas.
Okay, I guess gimana pun, I can't lie where COVID is a huge impact. I mean, personally to our business, especially where automotive is the biggest impact throughout the COVID, lack of mobility and etc. But regardless, we don't change anything in relation to how we run the business. Meaning that there are small things that we need to adapt with the circumstance, of course. But the core aspect of us, or at least for me personally, is how we focus on the business. How we focus on the key metrics, delivering the best customer experience, delivering the transparency that we deliver, focusing on that. Because at the end of the day, if you build a great business, the money will come to you. So with that sense, of course, I can say this because I was lucky when COVID hit. I already have plenty. I still have some money left or capital left to be able to run the business. Of course, it's different. That's why it's unfair for me to actually represent the others on saying this.
Yeah.
But all I can say is that we focus on the business. Of course, you got to adapt by being more cost optimization and so on. And you might need to reshift your focus from actually achieving growth to potentially optimization first before that scale up growth, because the market wouldn't be able to support. So that's how I see it. So rather than I didn't touch on the fundraising as you mentioned, but because I do believe during this time, fundraising can only be important, but only secondary to the business focus. That is the one thing that I want to bring up.
I see. This is interesting. So again, focus onto the business, especially in this condition, right? All right. Okay. Mas Wisnu, how about you, Mas?
Ya, mungkin ceritanya juga mirip-mirip sih ya. Di pas COVID, of course, pas awal-awal a lot of uncertainty, right? And because of that juga mungkin ada banyak adjustment yang we need to make in terms of realigning the focus, realigning the again our North Star metrics or KPIs, etc. But dari semua itu sebenarnya ada silver liningnya, itu kita lihat there's a larger opportunity juga karena people are more open to use digital solutions, and especially in our world ya, di mana a lot of processes itu mungkin sebelumnya very manual atau harus offline dari sisi recruitment, interview, onboarding dan lain sebagainya. Thankfully we've built all kinds of solution around that to do everything remotely. Jadi pas COVID hit itu kita cukup kebantu sih sebenarnya karena we've already built the product itself. And I guess for fundraising, kalau gue sih lihatnya lebih ke arah, I think for me itself it's much more efficient ya, karena fundraising di Jakarta tuh is super painful pre-COVID ya, because you can only go to so many meetings right in a day. Tapi kalau misalnya di doing things on Zoom or Hangouts itu kita bisa benar-benar sehari tuh bisa langsung diajar aja misalnya 5 or 7 meetings in one day, so therefore it's more efficient and cheaper karena kita nggak harus terbang-terbang juga ya. Tapi definitely more difficult in terms of establishing those in-person relationships yang you build over coffee, and I think that's the only thing that's lacking. Tapi di luar itu it's I would say there's a lot more positive outcomes.
I see. Justru yang lebih sulit dan yang lebih ini lebih ke engagementnya ya Mas ya, ketika begitu yang biasanya kita coffee table and then talking terus ada insight.
Basa-basinya lah ya Mas.
Iya, basa-basinya. Tapi basa-basi itu kadang yang jadi ngelancarin buat ini loh Mas.
Betul.
Ya nggak sih?
Iya. Benar.
Okay. Tapi benar. Let me make this as a question. Ini I think Mas Martin, you said that you've been doing a lot of calls, right? All that, calling, just maintaining all and everything and try to building the trust. And one thing that makes me very, very interested to you is that you said, gimana caranya pada akhirnya ketika nge-build trust itu bareng sama si investor-investor itu juga adalah mereka orang-orang yang memang lu pengen share, that you want to share this with them gitu ya. How you actually divide that they are the right partners or they are the right investors that to be invest in Otoklix. Gimana Mas caranya?
I guess first thing first, the most important part is whether these investors actually believe in the vision, your vision, okay? Regardless whether they invest in you. If they don't believe in a vision, they wouldn't spend their time to actually help you as well. It's just a matter of right now, your stage of the company is not something that we can invest in, for example. So how I see whether this is an investor that I want, usually I ask one question. To any pitch that I did, at the end of the pitch, I always ask this one question. If you can redo everything that we're doing, or if you're the CEO of this company, what is the one thing that you're concerned about and you will change, and how will you do that? The goal of this question is I want to understand his thought process. Whether they're just gonna, because I would love to know whether they can actually provide the insights needed when we actually partner. So if I like the answer, then this is someone that I would want to spend more time with. Of course, there are phases where, of course, if you listen to that question, you listen a good answer, doesn't mean, oh, financials, this is for you. Not like that. Of course, you got to build trust along the way. It's not like I'm sharing 10 different investors with 10 of my financials as well. I've only shared it to a few. But that's how I see it. If they can bring something to the table where they can provide an insight where you might not be able to think of, or at least something that can correct you, or provide not just correct, oh, this is wrong, but provide, how about you do this? That is how I see it. Because that is someone that you want as an investor and as a board member as well, because that is the person that you're able to help your company grow even further. And for you also personally as a co-founder, as a C-level executives.
I see. Wow, okay. Ini menarik ya, justru dengan dilempar pertanyaan di akhir gitu, kayak Bapaknya nggak bangun melihat sebuah chance ya berarti. You are looking from that question. Is there any chances of that person is actually, you said that you like the answer like you said, and then you're willing to spend the time more to get know more about it, right? Nah, tapi kalau tadi kita ngobrol nih sama Mas Wisnu, basa-basi itu kadang-kadang yang dikangenin, kadang yang diperluin, dan kadang yang dan kayak tadi Mas Martin juga bilang, well, it's not easy gitu. Nah, pertanyaan berikutnya ini agak keluar konteks dari fundraising, tapi I really want to know, guys, do you have any tips for all the startups in Indonesia, all the people that audience that today actually watching for you, both of you, how actually to build the relation, that maintaining. Kalau tadi kan Mas Martin udah bilang nelfonin lah apa semua gitu ya. Sementara kalau Mas Wisnu mungkin tadi belum cerita nih kalau untuk cara ini ya. Tapi I really want to know. Investor juga kan apa ya? There's a lot of a typical of investors, right? Gitu kan. Sangat banyak tipikalnya gitu. Tapi gue pengen tahu dari kalian berdua, how you both actually maintain these investors or this potential investor or these people that you actually can say that I trust this guy and we actually can have something with him or her, right? Now, Mas Wisnu dulu deh. Mas, kalau lu gimana Mas gitu? Basa-basinya kan nggak bisa tadi, ngopinya nggak susah kan gitu kan?
Oke, berarti pertanyaannya lebih ke arah how to maintain relationships with investors ya. Oke. Mungkin lebih ke arah it depends again on the objective juga ya, kayak I think Martin juga tadi udah jelasin very well juga untuk part ini. You'd always want to have a list of investors atau a pipeline lah, kan ini kayak proses sales ya, pipeline of investors that either you're interested to speak with atau udah ngobrol, and keep them updated every month atau every quarter depending on ini ya the urgency itself. Tapi di luar itu semua juga pasti over time you build a genuine relationships with a few of them. Dan ini juga mungkin kalau gue lihat juga bukan gimana caranya biar nggak cuma satu arah, we're not the ones yang keep on giving, tapi gue selalu lihat juga kayak kalau misalnya ada yang ngebantu, walaupun nggak ada any indication dari kita untuk mau fundraising atau apapun, tapi juga ada some investors yang who didn't invest in us, juga mereka selalu bantuin over time kayak ini ada some potential portfolio companies that would really need your help, dan vice versa juga, mungkin kalau dari kita ada boleh nggak ngobrol sama ini mereka juga bantu. So I think those kind of relationship yang dimana kita we talk as equals ya, bukan selalu di mindset orang kayak begging money dan sebagainya, tapi no, it's about establishing an equal relationship, and I think that's very important to maintaining that relationship itself, juga sebelum kita ngomongin about the financials, fundraising or anything like that.
Oke, ini menarik sekali ya. Ini equal yang sama gitu ya judulnya berarti ya, gitu posisinya. It's really good. Mas Martin, what do you think?
First of all, I need to divide the question into two, like whether your existing investors and your potential, or at least the investors that is not on your capital yet. Okay, so I'll answer the existing investor first. There's only one clear rule, or one clear tip that I can give you guys adalah be transparent, not only on the highlights, but be more active during the lowlights. That's why I have this email thread that is always updated every single month. Tapi regardless of that, ada group juga, where the first in the body email, the first one is not the metrics or the highlights, it's lowlights, just lowlights, just telling them what's wrong, what's the problem that we face, because it shows you a good relationship if you're being transparent to whatever your problem is. Of course, you don't tell all your problems to your investor. There are some that you gotta keep it yourself. Tapi gimana pun, be very transparent, not only on the highlights, but be more active during the lowlights. Tapi to be honest juga, why I like to be active during the lowlights, because I don't want my investors disturbing me when I'm still focusing on the business, asking updates and so on. So before that, I WhatsApp them first. Itu juga ada faktornya lah. Jadi biar nggak diganggu, wah kenapa ini tuh kok customer turun? I say it first, customer turun karena ini. Rather than me being disturbed by the momentum of me focusing the business. For potential investor, this is essentially can be applied to any relationship building. How I learned this is that there's 1 week session with Serge Sequoia just talking about building relationships. You got to be mindful of the agenda that your people you're talking to. It's not a a take only relationship. It's a give and take. So let's say you want to be very good with one investor, understand what's the agenda for them, and make sure that you can not only take insights from them, but can also give. For example, specific example, one VC that I'm very good with the partner, I often send out pitch decks of other startups that I've talked to throughout some kind of network saying that, oh, this is an interesting company, and just talk about that.
Okay.
To show that I'm trying to get deals for you with no strings attached. Well, indirectly, no strings attached. Tapi basically, it's more like to recap a little bit, it's a give and take relationship. You can't only take, be mindful of their agenda as well, and therefore try to make sure that you can deliver, at least satisfy them as well, and they're comfortable with it.
I see. Ini menarik ya. Selain menjadikan, kalau tadi Mas Wisnu bilang bikin catatan karena visi itu seperti pipelining juga buat teman-teman. Sementara sebenarnya, as like Mas Martin said, that actually the startup is a pipeline that they need, right, for to be approached in the future, gitu kan. Ini menarik itu. Bahkan give it and take is a great relationship to connect within the investors and also for the startup. Ini akan menjadi catatan yang sangat menarik sekali. Okay, Mas Martin, Mas Wisnu, thank you banget buat insight-nya. Now, we actually kind of 4 minutes to the end, so I'm gonna wrap up all of this, right? But before we wrap up, let me ask you with the last question, the biggest question. Everybody's playing startup. Of course, they plan it to say that I want to exit, right? I don't know everybody's or not, but some people that I know, they always say like that. I'm creating the startup and hopefully can be exit one day, right? Now, I want to hear both of your plan with your startup right now. What is actually the future you want to get or approach, and what is your biggest dream or biggest goals from your own startups? So I guess let me present it first from Mas Wisnu. Mas.
Okay. Mungkin kalau dari gue lebih lihatnya kayak within my capacity, seberapa jauh sih sebenarnya bisa gue bawa sampingan gitu. Dan pasti opportunities, exit plan dan lain sebagainya itu something yang kita definitely it's something down the road tapi not in the near future definitely. Karena we see the market is very big, and I think we have the right people, we have the right team to keep on growing this, and we have the right support. Then I think it's more of a internal capacity, gimana kayak how can I continue to improve and grow as fast as the company itself. So yeah, I'm not really thinking about that yet, to be honest.
All right, wow, okay. Terima kasih banyak Mas Wisnu untuk sharingnya. Last but not least, Mas Martin, how about you?
Yeah, I kind of agree with Mas Wisnu here. To be honest, I don't think people that already think about exit is a good you can actually build an everlasting company, to be honest. That means you're finding only a short-term fix. You're building this for a long-term, you're building an enduring company. So that's one mindset that at least that I was brainwashed by Sequoia or learned at least as well in a way. But so for me, the sole purpose is rather than focusing on the exit truly matters for investors. You got to satisfy your investors or shareholders for sure. But at the end of the day, build a great company, meaning that high infrastructure, for me, customer that users love, users delight, hence high profitability. Those three are the focus. Scale it like crazy. Whether you're going to exit through IP or so on, secondary. Focus on those three things, and exiting will be a secondary or tertiary thing that is beyond the top 10 list even.
Wow. Okay. Thank you very much, Mas Martin, Mas Wisnu, for your time for tonight. I'm very, very delightful. This is really great conversation. I hope you enjoy it as well as me. But now, before we close this one, again, teman-teman Selasa Startup and Endeavorians Indonesia, terima kasih banyak sudah hadir malam ini di acara Selasa Startup and Scale Up 101 Endeavor Scaleup Growth Program barengan sama Mas Wisnu dan Mas Martin tentunya. Thank you again, Mas Martin, Mas Wisnu, sehat-sehat selalu. Kita bakal off sebentar lagi, tapi jangan off dulu karena nanti kita akan ini sedikit briefing. But again, buat teman-teman Selasa Startup, jangan lupa untuk selalu stay tune terus di Selasa Startupnya bareng dengan dailysocial.id. Dan yang spesial tentunya malam ini barengan sama Endeavor Indonesia dalam program Endeavor Scaleup Growth Program di Scaleup 101. Nah, sekali lagi teman-teman, terima kasih untuk yang mensupport acara ini, tentunya ke Babarafi Group, Dana, Industry, dan BCG atau Boston Consulting Group, dan tentunya dailysocial.id as our media partner. Jangan lupa selalu untuk follow us in our social media platform, Endeavor_Indo, untuk update info-info tentang program Endeavor Indonesia, dan dailysocial.id untuk berita-berita startup paling hot. Sekali lagi, terima kasih atas waktunya, dan terima kasih para pembicara yang keren-keren di malam ini. Mudah-mudahan sehat semua, dan tentunya bisa mencapai cita-cita dan mimpinya. Thank you very much. I'm Iki tonight. Thank you very much. We'll see you again another time, and bye-bye.